Alright guys, so our server is ready. So let's go ahead and attend to our server. Alright, so when we're setting up the server or when we're installing the operating system onto the virtual machine, we did stress on some variables or parameters that we're passing, and that's the two most important ones was the username and the server hostname. And I stress so much on it because it helps you to understand and appreciate your enterprise, the enterprise landscape that you find yourself. So most of the time, if you find yourself working and you hear something like, oh, maybe your deployment has to be done on the app server, then you know that you are going to be attending to, or you'll be facing a server that helps you to deploy your applications. In other words, you interact with a server that helps you to deploy your applications. So it's just for you to understand or for you to know the purpose of that server, or in other words, why the server has been provisioned. That's the technical term, or why the server has been administered in that dimension, or in that requirement, or in that configuration setup that, or that configuration setup that the business has put in place. So sorry about this small blunder up there, yeah, but it's just for you to appreciate, to understand that. So we'll go ahead and enter the username. So the user for this is an app user, and then the app user is trying to log into the server. So if you look at the bottom to your left, you realize that you see app user at app server, and it's very important that you should understand it's just not there on your screen for you to just to see it. No, there's a reason why it's there, so that when you look on your left, you know who you are and what server you are operating on. So if I say that I want to know who I am as a user, I'm an app user, and if I want to know where I'm operating from, it is the app server. Just by looking at that, this is quite similar to saying that you are a user on a platform that they call Yahoo. So if you're a user on a platform called Yahoo, you as a user, you exist on yahoo.com, and yahoo.com is an application that if you try to reach out to it, it gives you an IP address, and the IP address you are seeing is that of a certain machine that is being attending to, or listening to, or responding to traffic that is coming into its interface. So that's just for you to know. Later on, look at another code in regards to some of these little things in IP addresses and other subsequent code films that will be released in regards to enterprise infrastructure and the developer. So just for you to know this. So at the moment, I am an app user. I am an app user for this app server. Probably later on, you may not like to just be an app user. You may want to be something else. So later on, you may want to create another user for this app server, and the other user we want to create will be dependent on what it has to do. So maybe the first is an app user, the next one will be an app manager, and you add an app manager user to this app server. So that's just for you to know. So if app manager gets added, then app manager 2 is going to have his existence on the app server, and you can go on and on. So if you deploy app server live, then it keeps getting complicated, so it gradually gets in there. Alright, so that's just by the way. So right now what we want to do is that we are operating from the home user, the home directory of the app user. This is quite similar to you being on your Windows box. If you are from a Windows operating system, you do realize that when you go to Windows and you move to Windows, you come down, you have users. Yeah, we have a users directory, Windows and users directory. This is where you have all your users that are existing on this Windows machine. It's under the users directory or the users folder, and for each user you click on, you see their objects or their folders that has been tied or is mapped to them. Okay, so that's just by the way. If you're not comfortable using this and you want to use another way to interact or to get the list of all users, you can go ahead with command PowerPoint, or even PowerShell, PowerShell, or even with command prompt by just typing get local user, and it gives you the list of all the users on the platform. But if you go ahead and you do a who am I on this, you get the host name that you are, and then the user that's on that that you are logged in as, or that's the active user. So who am I is user. Alright, so that was just by the way, just for you to appreciate the similarity between this and Windows. Alright, so now let's go back to our virtual machine, and what we're going to do is that, just as in Windows, you have directories that you're able to have all your resources attended to, the same way that in the Linux machine that we are going to have directories or folders that helps us to manage or allocate some form of space for us to have an existence of an application or an existence of a property or an object on this machine. So what am I trying to say is that Windows, if you go, let's go to our Windows machine, and we come to this PC, we do Windows C. You see all these directories, some come from the operating system, to others to we are the ones that installed it to get to there. Alright, so the takeaways will be program files and program files, one for 36 bits, one for 64 bits. There's a way that if you click on it, it tells you that this is where, or this is the grouping, or this is the classification, or this is the way of organizing all applications that will be installed on the operating system, so it keeps your system tidy. So that's in the program files. Alright, aside that one, we also have the users. We looked at the users, and then also if you go ahead and you do a download, you come to users, because you are the user of this application. If you go to the downloads, you see all downloads that are tied to this particular user. So if you had another user too that we have created, and that user also goes ahead and makes downloads, you also see all the downloads that are being attended to, are being catered for by that user. So just for you to know that. So in the same lamplight, I'm just trying to do this. You don't have permission. Okay, maybe I have to log in as an administrator user. I'm ready for that to work. Alright, so in the same lamplight that we have attended to this, that's what we're also going to do here. So here in the Linux directory, later we'll look at some of these things later on. Users and var and tmp, temp, opt, root, dev, etc or etc, and home. So that's the same way when we also want to have, or we want to get an application into our operating system, we want to know where it should be accommodated, and we're going to do that based on our requirements. So for now, what we want to do is that we want to slide into the temp or tmp directory, and we are trying to download Apache Web Application Server. That's because Apache Web Application Server is what's going to help us to render, or that's going to serve our application for the end users that the requirement or the business needs, which could be public, private, internal. It all depends on the requirements. Alright, so we're going to go online now, and when we go online, we're going to try and install this onto the virtual machine we've created. So we're going to go to the website of that application server. So we're going to do a Google search, and we'll do Apache Tomcat server. Let's just type it like this. So we'll go to the main website, tomcat.apache.org. So Yep. And we do Tomcat 9. The reason I'm going to use Tomcat 9 is that because that's what I have running here, and I wouldn't want to go too much into versions and my Java source code not working on one version and this version and it's behind this version. But you can actually read more about that, so you avoid that. But because I'm using Tomcat 9, I'll just go to Tomcat 9. Alright, so let's click on download, and we're going to download for Linux or Ubuntu Linux. So that's we'll go with the tar approach, and the reason we'll go with the tar approach is we can't do an installer here, and this is what we have. Tar is a tar file, so we'll go with the tar file. In other words, it has been archived and it has been compressed. So we'll right click on this open link. So that's the way we are going to, sorry, copy the link, sorry. That's the way we are going to, that's the way we are going to get our objects to be able to download this. So if we do paste the link here, you see we get the file that has, or that contains, or the directory or the archive that contains our objects or our binary installations, or it has the application server for us, but it has been tarred, it has been compressed. So we are going to untie it. When we do untie it, we will have the server that we need to do our work. So that's what we're going to do now. So we'll try, what we do is that we'll have this link. Let's copy this link somewhere, or this resource locator somewhere. So I'll do sticky notes. Let's just type a new note. Alright, so forgive me, I have a lot of tax open. Let me close this, let me close this, let me close this, let me close this too. Alright, so we'll just work with this. Alright, so we're going to go back to our virtual machine. What we are going to do is that we are going to install, or we are going to get the download here on this virtual machine. If it was to be in a Windows box, we just came from a Windows box. So if we're coming from a Windows box, probably if we've hit the download already, it's going to just, once you hit it, it's going to download for you, and it tells you where do you want to download. Maybe you want to download in your documents or downloads here. Once you click on it, save, is going to do that. So we're actually getting the file, but we can't do that on the Linux board because we do not have a GUI for that. So we have to administer this all via commands. So we're going to go with curl -o, then we put the HTTPS there. And the reason we are doing curl -o is we want to let the name be the file we are getting should be of the download we are doing, should have the name of the directory. So we are going to curl -o and dlcdn.apache.org, then /tomcat -9, then we do v9.0.87, then we do bin, then we do Apache, then we do Tomcat, then 9.0.87 the tar file, and then .gz. Alright, so we are fine now. Let's do this curl. Okay, let's check. Is it I think the curl -o is complaining like no URL specified. Alright, let me do this again. Let's do this. Let me make it big O. So you literally have to check the man file, but because I've done it before, that's why. So let's go with this. So it's actually reaching out. It's going to get our file for us. So the curl is rather curl -big O, not small o. So you can actually check this if you're not sure from the man page. We'll look at all this later in another folder. Another code film, which it has to do with understanding the interacting with Linux as a developer. Yeah, so kicking some curiosity in that one too, and some extra out of the box thinking as well. Yeah, so let's give it a while. It says time spent. Time left is a minute, so it's left 1 minute 20 seconds. It's counting down, so let's give it a while. When it's ready, I will just attend to it. Alright, so I'll download this ready. Yeah, so you can see the Apache Tomcat shows when we list it out. Right, that's fantastic. And we're going to install Apache Tomcat on our VM. And Apache Tomcat needs Java to work with. So if you don't have Java, you have to install Java. So we'll check about Java. There is no Java installation on our directory. Even if you do Java minus version, we don't have a Java installation. So what we do is that we are going to install Java. Before we do that, we'll do the sudo apt update. Then, sorry. Sorry, let's do it again. Update. So we are trying to update our packages before we go ahead and install the Java. And it's something we normally do in a Linux or a Linux machine, and there's a reason to it, and there's a reason to that. So later on I'll explain all that. Right, so that's fine. And someone's okay, just why don't you just see something small? And that's because you're going to bring a package into your machine. So if that package has the dependencies, we are just making sure that at least the system has been updated to the current, or the packages have been updated to the current, or the environment has been updated to its current status, so that if we bring anything into or we bring a package or a binary inside into the VM, it doesn't complain of versioning. Yeah, so if you are someone who uses Java POM files a lot, you realize that this simply it helps you to understand how it affects your VMs too as well. So that's really later on look at that here. So just by the way, just make sure that you are on the latest status, and even if for any reason you are bringing a package inside it doesn't complain of incompatibility or some mismatches here and there. Alright, so that's fine. So the next one is that we want to get our Java package. So when we type the Java, we had a number of options that we're always showing. So we'll go with the JDK, open JDK 17. So that's what we are going to install. So if you also want to be sure of what to install, you can actually do a search for that, and with that search you can actually see what you want to install. So just type this, go with this command, and if you're not sure, you can actually I should have listed it. You can actually read this from the man page. So just go ahead and do grep open JDK then 17, and then if there's anything, then star. Yep, okay, there's none like that. So let's see, open JDK, let me be sure, open JDK then 17 then star. Yeah, so it returns the number of them, and we want to go with the JDK. So that's the one we want to get into our environment, and we are doing that in our we are operating inside our temp folder. So what we are going to do is that let's install the JDK file or the JDK package. Open JDK and do 17, do JDK. Alright, so yes, So with the Apache, we just did a curl request to get our packages, but this one we are doing an installation. So when we do the installation, based on the path that has been set inside the Java installation or the Java application, it will know where to reside. So but we can actually go ahead and advance and predict where it will go to. Yep, so we just wait for it to finish installing, then we use 2 commands to find out where it's being installed. So let's give it a while, then when we return we'll look at this later too. Alright, so download is done, the installation is done. So let's go ahead and just do a Java version. Right, that's perfect. So we do find out that it has been installed. So someone say, where is it being installed? Because we didn't actually, we are just operating from the temp file, but we didn't specify an installation, and that's because the Java application or the Java software that we just installed knows where to go and be installed. So if you do where is Java, it tells where Java was installed. So binary, because that's where we keep all binary objects, then it goes on to show you where the man page is located. Alright, so that's what we will look at these directory structures later on in another code film. Yeah, so that you understand, you can easily predict where the installations will always go to. But that's like advanced Unix. Alright, that's just by the way. Okay, so what next is for right now, we're going to do now is that we're going to install our Apache Tomcat server. So right now we just have it in our, we just have the download in the temp folder, and that's not good, because once you restart the server, this file is going to be lost. So what we want to do is that we want to move it from the temp folder to the opt folder. So we are going to install it inside the opt folder. That's what we are going to do. So we are actually going to untie it. When we untie the file, then we tell it where to untie, just like with Windows. With Windows 2, if you do come here, let's see something. Yeah, with Windows, if you are doing an extraction, let's say you have a file that you are extracting, let's just do something. Let me just compress this, add to archive. Yeah, maybe zip, and just click OK. Yep, we have my permission, it's allowed. Alright, now when you want to unzip it and you click extract files, you actually have to give the location as to where you want to extract it, whether it's supposed to be on the same location or a destination path. So you're still going to extract it. We are using a GUI to do that, but you have to give the destination and you're going to do this. So it's the same thing we're going to do with the in the Linux box. So we're going to untie it. Then when we untie it, we'll have it point to the destination we want to untie it to. So one thing too is that if you do check the listening for Apache Tomcat, you do realize that we did it as we installed it as an app user, because that's the user we are logged inside. So if later on we encounter errors with permissions, we have to go in as a root user to get those, to be able to have administrative privileges to continue with our administration of the server, or continue with the server provisioning that we started with. Just for you to know. I don't be talking too much. So we'll go with the command. We'll say tar, that's remove the file, and it's tied to app user, so we shouldn't have an issue because it's tied to app user, unless if we get with some permissions of executable, then we know what to do. So we'll do tar, then Apache Okay, so there's so many Apache. Right, so we have to, it's like if we are creating a tar file, so we do that. Let's add a command. So first is the first thing first, even before you're untitled, you want to see what's inside the file before. That's one beautiful thing you can do before you untitled. Let's just see what's inside. So tar and then TV. That's just to look inside what's inside the tar file. It's a whole lot, a whole lot of directories and objects that are all in the tar file, and it has been compressed, it has been archived and compressed for us, which is fine. Alright, so what we did is that we were okay, we've seen what we wanted to see. Next time we'll do a less, just to know that we're at the end. Alright, so what we do is that we, okay, fine, we've seen this, we don't want to do this, we want to rather unzip it first, because we have zipped it, it has been compressed, it has been zipped, and then we want to extract it. So tar xv, this is what we want to do. So we are just trying to that unzip the file, or because it has been compressed, decompress it, remove from the zip file, then when you're done, extract the tar file from it. So that's the command we are going to do first. Then when we have this command and it's executed, now it's left with the destination, just as we look in the window. So we point it to a destination that we want to have it to, that's Tomcat. And then also we will check the content of the tar. See, something when you do a compression, you do realize that it comes as a nested object or a nested folder. So if you uncompress it, sometimes you get a folder and another folder. We don't want that, so we're just going to pass a command here, and that command we are just saying that remove it from if the we have nested directories, we don't want it to be in a nested directory, it should just be one. Just remove it from that single directory that exists. So if you look on your listing, you see that Apache Tomcat has web apps, Apache Tomcat has lib, Apache Tomcat has conf. So we don't want to see Apache Tomcat when we extract it. We want to just see web apps, logs, temp, and bin and what have you. It's just for you to know this. So if you still struggle with this, probably when we're done, we'll go to the Windows and also look at it. So let's just go ahead. Why is he complaining? It says you may not have specified more than one. Delete or option. Okay, I hope I got the command right. Yeah, that's the command. So is it permission? It does have to do with permission. Strip comment. Oh, you may not specify more than one. Okay, let's do this. Let's check this again. Let's do this a different approach. Let's give the flag. It's still complaining. Okay, alright, let's do this. I think it's we want to open the man page now to check. Let's do this. Maybe the C is not the right C. Wow, what issue is this? Unrecognized option. Okay, fine. So we're getting somewhere. Let's check comments. Oh, I have to check the man page to be just sure that I'm typing the right thing, because I know this minus strip comments. Oh, it's just one. Let me just see the man page. Manta. Then you type strip. So minus strip components. Sorry, components. Yeah. So let's do it again. Components. Yeah, that's fine. So what is the issue again? So minus C. How many? I didn't check. Let's go back again. Let's do strip. Let me see something. Minus strip components. So okay, let's do minus another flag, so it just be like this. Okay, Alright, so that's fine. So it says cannot open. What's the error? Cannot open, no such file or directory exists. So we are trying to go to opt folder, and in that folder we are trying to create a directory called Tomcat. It's complaining that there is no such file or directory, cannot open. Okay, so let me do it with sudo first. Let's add sudo to it, because the opt folder, the permission right for that is that you have to it's tied to the root, because that's the root user, it's inside the root user directory. Alright, so let's do the listing again. So if you check opt, it is of a root user and of a root group, and other users will have read and only executable. Alright, so let's run it with sudo first, because I've had a chance of doing this with some directories have been created before by just specifying the folder name there. So I'll do it with sudo just to be sure I'm doing the right thing. 2024. Alright, so no such file exists. Okay, fine. Then let's go to opt. Let's do make directory Tomcat. Right. So permission denied, cannot create, so sudo make directory Tomcat. I just prayed this, not the only error. Right, now let's go back and run it again. Let's operate from temp, because that's where we are. And let's do this again. Yeah, so the folder wasn't available. Alright, so even without sudo would this still work? So yeah, it's the permissions that have been set. So yeah, the permissions that have been set is execute. So it says permission that has been denied. In other words, you don't have access to write to it. If you check the directory structure that we saw here, so it says opt is read x. That's for other users. Later on we look at that. If you check the opt line or that row, it says executable and read, so you can't write to it. Alright, so we were able to do that successfully so we'll go to opt Tomcat. Alright, so once that's fine, we have it's no more nested inside the Tomcat directory that we saw as we looked at the tar file. If you look at this very carefully, you realize that it has been untarred for you, so you do not have to even worry about the Tomcat folder that we saw as we shuffle it. So as you see here, so Tomcat, then bin, then web apps, it has been extracted for you, and so you're only seeing the current directories. It's not nested, and I explained this earlier with regards to using the Windows machine. We'll look at some of these things later. My memory forgot years to get the installation, so yeah, so let's go straight to probably if time allows I'll just go straight to them. So yeah, so this is what we have. So now what we want to do is that Tomcat has been set up. We use root, was done with a sudo root, so root user has done that extraction for us. But when we want the application to be running, we want it to run as a Tomcat user, and the reason is security reasons. That if, for instance, the hacker is able to maneuver his way to allow a certain script to run, once he accesses the server and it's running on Tomcat, is going to, because it's running as root, he can do anything to the virtual machine or the environment that is hosting or housing this application. So you can say it's tied to root. We don't want it to be tied to root. So once you are tied to root, you have a lot of access or freedom or privileges that you can administer based on whatever you want to do. So we don't want that. We're going to create a Tomcat user just to run the Tomcat application, and we're going to deny it some permissions and some privileges so that it doesn't operate in that powerful mode. Yep, so as a user that we're going to create a user just to run the application. So just think about that this user does all that he can do. He doesn't have the root user privileges, so just in case something goes wrong or our installation gets compromised due to some security reasons, it doesn't affect our environment. So that's just by the way. Alright, so first things first is that we're going to create that user, and once you create that user, we're going to do the necessary administration of the user. So before I do that, realize that we are logged in as Tomcat user. So if you want to find all the users that this virtual machine has, you can actually go into a file called the password file. The password file helps you to see all the users. So at the bottom you have app user. That's the last but one is app user. It gives you the ID of the user, his group ID, the name of the user, and every user is being tied to a home directory and a shell. Because once you log in as a user, if you do remember clearly that when we logged in as a user, we came into the virtual machine, or we came into the environment with a username and a password, and that username and password that we came into, it has a shell access. So it's that shell access that helps us to enter into this box and do all the sorry to say, but crazy stuff you can ever imagine inside the box, be it for your development, be it for your work, be it for the goals of the business. It's all because we have a shell that has been attached to it. When we look at the password file, we'll look at some of these things later on. So I realize that once you have a Linux VM, you can literally do anything in that box, literally anything. Yeah, so let's go ahead and let's go straight to the root. Let's go straight to opt Tomcat. Let's go straight to opt first, and let's just do our listing. So what we do is, let's create a user for this. So we'll create a user, and then we can create a user as app user. App user doesn't have some privileges. He's just a normal user. He's just an app user, but root user has some privileges. So we're going to use it with the sudo command, and we do user add. Then we'll say that for you don't have access to the shell, which is just a false, and we'll say that for you we'll give you a group called Tomcat, and then also we're going to specify the home directory for this. Yep, so that's the command that we are going to execute to get our user ready. Right, so group Tomcat does not exist, so let's first create a group. So sudo group add, and do Tomcat. So we've created a group, and later on let's do the assignment. What's the issue? Sudo -s -g Tomcat -d. That should be it. Okay, let's just see. It doesn't also give me any. Sudo -s -g -d. Let's check. Let me check. Let me just do the man's user add. I'm not adding something right. Sudo options, then login. I didn't even read the command. I'm not going to do all this work. Close it again. So sudo user add group first. Validate the group, then -g temp. So sudo user add -s -main force, then Tomcat, then -d, then Apache Tomcat. Yep. So as you complain that it's trying to say that maybe we are not passing one of the right options. So -d -s minus G. Oh, let's look at it. Minus G groups. So it's the groups. Let's do it as well. Minus G. Perfect. It has been executed. So that's fine. It has been executed. So let's just check from our password file. So let's go to the password file. How do I want to do this? Let's password file. Then let's search for Tomcat. Okay, Tomcat has been yet existed. Then let's execute the command again. Let's go back. Let's go back to TMP. No, OPT. Let me state this again. Sudo minus G minus T. Oh, where is it? Still complaining again. Minus G minus T. Destination. Minus T, yeah, so small minus D. And minus G. Then so we user add. Oh, we are not specifying the which user. So user add, you just have the group. So user add Tomcat. Sorry. So group Tomcat already exists. If you want to add this user to that group, use minus G. Okay, so let's use minus G. Sorry. sorry. We just added the command sudo user. I didn't add the user, so which is fine. Right, so you say the user already exists. So if it didn't exist, then we don't have to use the minus G. That's fine. Okay. Let's check the etc file. Let's go to the etc directory and do less password Tomcat. That's perfect. So Tomcat has been created. We quite look lost, so that's okay. So that's fine. So if you go back to cd opt, we do ls minus lh, and we even do a grep of Tomcat. You should see we created a user as a group. So we created a group for it. Yep, and then we created the D. So we've created a group and we've done everything. That's perfect. And if you go into the sc file too, it shows. Yeah. So we're now going to let's go. Let's just do this. Take our time and do this. Yeah. So Tomcat. Then we have the directory. Then we have the bin shell, and there's no shell attached to it. So let me just go a little bit deep into the file. Let me just do the lsps wd. Alright, so that's perfect. It's okay. We are fine. So what we want to do now is that it still belongs to the root directory. So we don't want it to belong to the root directory. And how do we know? We know this because when we go to the opt directory, do ls minus lh and do a grep of Tomcat. It's still saying root. So let's cd to the Tomcat itself. That's minus lh. Yeah, it's all still saying root. So what we want to do is that we want to change ownership, and we want to make it change the group to Tomcat. So what we did is that we created a group, and we had a group for it, which was Tomcat. First we created a group, and we said that we will add that user Tomcat to bring forth, and we add it to the Tomcat group. But as it stands, so the Tomcat group has been created already, but we haven't and then the Tomcat user is part of the Tomcat group and is also part of the root group. So like the user exists in two groups. He exists in the Tomcat group, he also exists in the user group. I'm trying to see there's a command to check that, but I can't really remember as of it now. So what we do is that we'll just change the ownership, then we'll see it here. So it's just the understanding that the Tomcat user has two groups. So he belongs to the root group. He also belongs to the Tomcat group because we created a Tomcat group, and then because we extracted it with the tar file. We did it with sudo, so it's in the root. That's the root group. So right now it's tied to the root group, but we've created. We said it should be part. The Tomcat user should be part of the Tomcat group. So we are going to now change or make that possible. So we just go ahead and do this. So we just do sudo change group minus then Tomcat, then we'll fix it for all this. So what we're just doing is change the group to Tomcat, and it has been executed for us. So what were we trying to do here? So if you look at this, the command we did at first, if you check, let's go to the man page of -g, the man of user add, and do -g. So we have to, the group name or number of the user, this group name must exist. It must refer to an already existing group. If not prepared, the behavior user will depend on that. And we have the -g, a list of supplementary groups which the user is also a member of. Each group is separated from the next by a column. So there are two ways of doing that. That's the group name of the user's initial login group. The group name must exist. So what we did was the command we just executed, which allowed us to this user Tomcat already exists. So let's have another user. Let's do it 1 2. So we are adding this user Tomcat. We are giving it a shell. We are giving it a group that we've created, and we are giving it a directory. So what we are doing is that this Tomcat 12 has a shell. He has a group that we are creating for him. And he also has and you also have the destination directory that's at opt directory, or that's his home directory. That's how we say his home directory. But when we do check from when we did that first, we realized that the command we saw, the list we didn't have that showing, because we did the extraction and the untiring with sudo. That's because we are a root, and app user doesn't have some privileges. So once we did that, it belonged to the root group. But the Tomcat user we've assigned it to the Tomcat group. I think it should make sense now. Yeah. So if you go now to do ls-lh and you do a grep of Tomcat, you do realize that now it is changed to just Tomcat. So Tomcat group has been applied to it. So the Tomcat group has been applied to it, and then to the Tomcat user, that we are adding a Tomcat user to the Tomcat group, and that's what has just been done. So we've changed the group to the Tomcat group, but the Tomcat user exists in the Tomcat group. But the directory you saw here, what we saw was that it still belonged to the root group because we did it with sudo. So yeah, that's the understanding. But the Tomcat user belongs to the Tomcat group. So if Tomcat user belongs to the Tomcat group, means that the Tomcat user can administer some form of privileges because he's in the Tomcat group. But as it stands now, the directory belongs to the root user. It doesn't belong to Tomcat. It belongs to the root user. But if you're also in the Tomcat group, you can also make use of the Tomcat server. But the Tomcat group has only a Tomcat user. Alright, sure. So that's just by the way. So first, we've changed the group alright to Tomcat group, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change ownership. We're going to say that we just don't want it to belong to Tomcat only, because it still belongs to root. We just don't want to belong to root only. We want it to belong to Tomcat. So everything should belong to, some of the directory should belong to Tomcat. So and the reason is all because of security reasons. So right now, root, the owner of the directory is root, but Tomcat user is in the Tomcat group, and as a Tomcat group, in the Tomcat group, if you look on your stream, if you look on your left, rwx, rx, rx. Rwx is root, r-x is Tomcat, and any other groups is rx. So Tomcat in Tomcat group can do read and execute, but it can't write. The same applies to all other users in other groups. So right now what we're going to do is that we're going to make some directories belong to the Tomcat group, the Tomcat user, and the reason is that we want some, when we are running the application, we want you to know that this being done by Tomcat. We don't want to know that this being done by root. It's all security reasons. So if you go to Tomcat right now, cd, sorry, ls-lh, so cd Tomcat ls-lh. So these are the directories we have here. So you can see that Tomcat root user, root owner, and Tomcat group, but we can't see the Tomcat user because Tomcat user hasn't yet been given permission, hasn't been assigned to that. So that's what we're going to do right now. So we'll do that with sudo and say change ownership, and we're going to say that Tomcat user will change the ownership of web apps to that of the Tomcat user. We change the ownership of work to that of the Tomcat user. We change the ownership of temp to the Tomcat user and the logs to the Tomcat user. So web apps is where we have our applications, so definitely we're going to put that there, and we have logs and we have works. So we are just changing ownership. So if you look on your left, root user holds the web apps, which means that if you deploy an application on web apps and then a hacker is able to put a script and the script is can run on the VM, he's going to do some real damage to our application because it belongs to root user. That's what we are trying to prevent. So let's do it step by step. Let's just first of all change web apps, because we've seen that web apps is for deployment, and let's do it still recursive. So we say sudo change ownership of root user to just Tomcat, and it should work. So right now we do another ls -lh. Realize that it now belongs to Tomcat and just Tomcat, which means that if we deploy an application in web apps, we go to web apps and we put our application there, and this is permission denied, which is fine because we are who am I am app user. But if we change it to root, so if we done, which is perfect, which means that any application which will exist in web apps cannot do some damage to it if it's a Tomcat user, because we are the one that have confined it here. But if I go ahead and I change ownership, and I say make it sudo for web apps, invalid user, okay, let's say root, root, yeah, sorry, sudo, sometimes sudo and root let's make it root user. So and do the listing again. Realize that right now it belongs to root, and if I do a cd to web apps, it should work perfectly, because okay, with sudo, let's do it with sudo, because right now we are app user. App user has no authority inside the directory structures for web apps. So if you look at the other groups for web apps, it says -- meaning if you're app user, you can't do anything inside this directory. So there are two ways you can actually change that for web user, just for read purposes. So but don't let us go the long route, so let's just enter with sudo. So enter with sudo, so sudo cd, so sudo cd web apps. Okay, permission denied. So how are we going to look into web apps? So it's just root and Tomcat and other users. So we can also log in as a Tomcat user because we denied him of the shell, and neither can you also, this hasn't worked for me before, cd then web apps, sudo on web apps. It has never worked for me. Yeah, it doesn't work. So how are we going to do that? So what we can do is we can now change some permissions for that. So we're just going to focus on the bytes on our right to the web apps directory. That's the permissions on the right. So later on we'll change this. So we'll just say we have users, groups, owner. So we'll say u u is equal to rwx, then we'll apply it for web apps. Try to get the command right. Permission not permitted, changing permissions of web apps not permitted. That's because it's the let's do it with sudo, because we are app user, and app user has no permission at all to this. So we have to do it with sudo. So sudo, let's do it with sudo. So sudo, then there are 3 flags. Yes, it's mostly u, o, and g. So user address, so it has to be address. So let's do it address. So let's do it rwx. So perfect. So if you do a ls minus lh, later we change all this. Realize that something has been done to web apps, so it's saying that now we have rwx. So I can do a cd to web apps now, and I'm inside web apps. So that's what we just did. So that's what they are saying, that we shouldn't allow it to belong to we shouldn't allow it to have this permission, and it came from the tar extraction we did. So what we are going to do is that we're going to change this. We don't want this. So how we're going to change it? We're going to go back to the command we executed as sudo as root user, and then we're gonna is it dash 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 dash. So let's do dash dash dash, just as you saw it. Yep. And then let's go back and let's check again. Very interested. Sorry, ls listing, sorry. Yeah, so we are back again. So it has been tempered with. So if you do ls minus lh, you realize that it's gone. The flags are all gone. Alright, that's just by the way. Linux, very interesting. So later on we'll see how to play with it more. Yeah, it's just the beginning of awesome stuff. So let's just go back now and let's just continue what we're doing. So Tomcat user, app user has no access. We've seen it. Why? Root user can do a lot of damage to web apps, and we don't want it to be root user anymore. So if you do deploy application to web apps, there will be damage, and we've just seen this in Windows. So if you go to web apps, that's now one of our videos, and we did the deployment in the web apps. Realize that it runs from our web apps. That's what it's mostly said. It's for security reasons. Yep. So if you come here, so this is where the application will be running. This is where our application was running from, and we are going to lock this down. We're not going to let root have the access, because if we inject a script and the script runs with shell script and it's just gone with sudo. Yeah, so we don't want that to happen. So let's just block it to just Tomcat. So we're going to do that right now. So we'll do let's get the command again. So what would you want to do? Say change ownership. Yes, so sudo change ownership, and we're gonna say for minus change ownership Tomcat. That's the Tomcat user. If I do miss it, I'll pick it up again. Yeah, so that's fine. So we've changed it. So now it belongs to Tomcat. That's for web apps. So we can go ahead and do the rest for logs, terms, but right now it's just web apps that we look at. So the logs you can also go ahead, but right now it's just web apps. So basically we are ready for the actual or the final bit of the server provisioning process. So we've done that. So now Tomcat user it's only Tomcat user that can go into web apps and do any damage to it, and nobody will know this unless you share this with someone. But as it stands now, it's being confined in this box. Okay, so if we want to start our server, as usual we have to do the deployment into the web apps. Once you do deployment into the web apps, then we can actually go ahead and do our necessary work. So what we do right now is that we're going to see how to start the Tomcat server as a background process. So I know that the server is running. Once the server is running, as a service, then we do our deployment. So we're going to create a service for that. So once we create that service, then we'll be okay with that. So the service will be created. Let's go to Ep3. Ep3 directory is for system configurations, and then I'm going to look for systemd. 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 So systemd. So systemd, and then system, I'm going to look for system, and then system is where we have all our system services, that's background services that are running. So we're also going to create one for Tomcat, and once you create one for Tomcat will be able to run as a service. So for this bit, there's actually a file that I'm going to use from online. That's an online resource. So because we have to define some objects or parameters that the operating system has to fetch for. Once the operating system fetches for it, it should be able to do its work. So we're going to look at a sample online. Let's just get a sample online. Let's just say Tomcat as a service. This is the file. Example configuration file. So this is what we're also going to do. This is the same thing we're doing. So so this is the template. So it's a template unit file. So we're going to do the same thing. So we actually copy every content here. Let's just copy it. Alright, so we'll copy this. Then when we're done, we're going to do the same. So let's paste it here. That's perfect. Then let's give this to the left, and let's do API Tomcat. Alright, so we're going to do that. We're going to do that set configuration, and then once that one is complete, we can continue with our code film. So I'll take some time off to this because I can't actually copy and paste it here. It's not going to work. I can't copy and paste into my virtual machine. For now, there are some setups I have to do for that. So I'll be back in a second, and we will continue with our file, with our installation process. Alright guys, so we are done writing our Tomcat service file to run as a background service to be understood by our environment. That's our application server environment, that the server that we are setting up is going to we are configuring as a service, so a background service. So just for you to know that it's always running in the background. Later on, look at some of these things later as we get the service files and service managers. So a service is always running. So it has been set up to do that. So you don't always have to go and start the Tomcat server. No, it does that on its own in the operating system. So that's what we've just basically done. So later on, we look at what we look into the Unix operating system, and also its effects on the developer, or how the developer can leverage on that to become a power user. So just the basic stuff, just which user can run the application, if it has any dependencies, how do we start, what's the entry to the server, what's the exit, you name it. That's just the basic that we've done. So if you have another application that you also want to run as a background service, as you are configuring it, you know what to add and what not to add. Yep. Alright, so let's leave here and let's go ahead and restart our service manager. So our service manager knows that, hey, we have a new file which is supposed to run as a background service. So we'll enter this command and then we'll say fine, it says complete. Let's check the status of the service. So we'll do status and we'll say which file do you want, which service you want to do Tomcat. Alright, so when we do Tomcat, it gives us an error. When we start reading from the top downwards, it just says that the last line says failed to start Apache Tomcat web application container. So we have an error, and it says code exited. It says status of 2. And when we move to the left, sorry, to the right, it says status of 2 invalid argument. So we have an issue. So we have to actually find what the problem is. So let's go to the var folder where we have our logs var, which is basically the variable files, and we'll go to the logs. We'll go to the log and we're going to check the logs of the system. So we want to know what's happening in the background, because you are using the service manager to run. So if service manager cannot run the file, it will definitely throw a log. So we're going to go into the syslogs. So we'll look for syslogs. So we'll just do let's just listen to syslog, and let's actually go to the last line to find out what the issue is. So we'll go to the last line. So when we come to the last line, it says that failed Apache Tomcat web server failed, and it goes ahead to tell you more about the issue as to permission denied. And it says that logs catalina.out, it says it cannot create the log file because permission has been denied. So we have an issue. So let's go to the directory where we have our Tomcat, and we'll go to the directory where we have our Tomcat. It tells us that there was an issue with permissions with regards to the logs. So it said it cannot write to the logs. So that's what it's saying. It's all because it has permission denied. When we started the service, when we type the systemctl, we are doing it as an app user, and that's app user. And we don't want to run it as app user, we want to run it as a Tomcat user. So what changes are we going to do now? So we're going to, first things first is complain about it cannot write to the log. So let's change the ownership from Tomcat user to, so there are two ways of doing this. Either you add a write operation to the logs, so that logs can, Tomcat users can write to the logs, or people in the Tomcat group can write to the logs, or you let the Tomcat user own the logs directory. So there are two ways. So let's just go with first, let's just add a flag to let it write logs. So once you do that, it means that if you belong to the Tomcat group, you should be able to write logs. So we'll say sudo sysmod, then we'll say that let the group have write, and let's apply to the whole directory. Let it be logs. So this is what we're going to do. Okay, let's enter the password again. Oh, let's take our time. Verify it has been applied. Let's restart the service again. Let's check if it has even been applied. That's the best thing to do. So we did it for logs. Oh, you changed only one flag, sorry. Let's go back again and add them all, RW and X. Yes, so sorry, this is much more better. Let's check again. So RWX has been added for all the logs. So it applies to the logs directory. Then let's do the system reload. We actually give you a command that if it fails to start every 10 seconds, it should be able to start. But computers we can't wait for 10 seconds. So let's just do it ourselves. It's a short time, but I'm recording, so I want to move fast. Okay, access denied. Let's try again. Password. Let's do it again. Sorry. Yes, we are fine now. Let's check the status. Okay. Right, so we are fine, but there's a failure. So our error has changed. Now it's a failure. So let's go ahead and see. So now it says status 0 was success, but it's still exited, and there's a failure, not an error, by a failure. So let's check what the issue is. So let's go back to cd. Let's go to logs, cd var log, and then let's log, and let's go to the last line, and let's see what the issue is. So failure. Okay, so it complains that it says cannot create tomcat.pid. So it's making a complaint that it can't access a temporary directory for the Tomcat, and we actually need that because our web server needs it. So let's just go ahead and give it the permission it needs. So let's take our time and do that. So let's go to opt Tomcat. Right, so it's about the temp folder. Right, so there are two ways of doing that. We can just add the right operation for the temp folder, but the only thing that we did was that we actually gave total ownership to the web apps folder because we want it to run as a Tomcat user, but which means that all other directories will be running as root, which we may not like, because if our hacker gets into our system one way or another with a script, which means that he can do some damage. But we've hardened it with Tomcat user, with a Tomcat user which owns the web apps. But to be on the safer side, let's avoid root at all completely. So we're going to make some changes. First of all, we're going to undo the permissions we did for logs. So for logs, for the group, we're just going to make it R and X, but you can't write, and we'll make it -R, then logs. Right, so let's see the changes. Okay, so we've done some changes, and it seems similar to the lib, so that will be fine. Then now let's just do what we do best. Let's give total ownership of those directories to Tomcat. So let Tomcat own all those directories. So say change directory to Tomcat, then we apply it to logs, and we apply it to temp. Alright, that's much more better. So it says cannot permission denied. So let's do it to sudo, because this user doesn't have access to do that to this command. So let's do it again, but let's add sudo to do that. So it has been applied now, so we shouldn't have issues with these. If we chose any other issue, we just give it to the Tomcat user, or we make the right permissions. So that's fine now, so we're okay. So let's check let's restart the manager. We could just wait to check the status. Let's just check the status. I'm still complaining about a failure. Let's just restart the manager. Let's see what the issue is. Alright, fine. Yeah, sorry. Restart the manager. Let's check again. We're still having a failure. Okay, right, so now let's just check. Let's go and find out what the failure issue is. Maybe permissions again. Let's go to the var log. Let's into syslog. Let's go to the end of the file. Okay, so this time around, so what issue do we have now? So it says that it seems it's okay. It was able to find the PID file or the process identification file, but it still couldn't start. So what's the issue? So since it says exiting PID file found during start, right? So what could really be? The main process exited, it failed, but there's nothing showing the logs as to why it failed. It came then exit code, right? So how are we going to fix this? So let's check again. So let's try and debug this. So let's restart it ourselves. Tomcat. Right, then let's check the status. Right, so let's look at it. Let's see the logs of the application itself. So let's go to OPT and let's run into the logs. So let's go and check the logs. So right now, as it stands now, only people in Tomcat user has full permissions. Users in Tomcat groups don't have full permission, and those of us now from other groups don't have any permission at all. So I'm just going to add a permission for the other groups, chmod. And we'll see for those of us now from other groups, we also have read write exit apply to all the logs, and we've just done that. So let's go and now go into the logs and see what the issue is. So we'll use that with Catalina.out. So let's check Catalina.out and see. So let's into Catalina, and that's the server logs, and let's see what the issue is. So the issue is showing so much information here. Let's go to the end. Alright, so it says it complains about unable to load server, which is the Tomcat conf.server.xml file. It says permission denied, so it's more of permission. So let's just give it permission to be able to find the server file. Alright, so let's just do that. So opt, and then let's go to, and it complains of the conf file, so it doesn't have permission. So if you look at it very well, read, write, execute, read, and everybody has an empty flag, so you actually can't do anything. Alright, so we'll give it some permission because it cannot write. So someone said, why don't you just give full ownership of the file? So we just go ahead and do what we have to do. Right, so let's just do that. So let's change ownership. Let's make it Tomcat. Later on, if you are coming from other groups, you can do the hack or the bypass that we did. So we'll give it all the permissions. We'll just change the ownership to Tomcat. Do that for conf. You see Manosa John Tomcat, and we should be fine with this, which is perfect. So Tomcat now owns the configuration folder, which is okay. We are not bothered, because when we are coming from other groups, we can actually get our way into it. And let's check again. Let's check the. Let's restart the daemon. It will actually restart by itself. There's a command to it, but let's just do it by ourselves. You can actually just restart the service, not the whole daemon. You can actually just restart the Tomcat service and restart Tomcat. Okay. Alright, then let's check the status. Wow. So we are fine now. That's perfect. So we have our pre-ID. That's, you can find the process identification for this Tomcat server that's running. We have our service run is green, so it's active. That's what's important, is running. So if you do check, it should show that Tomcat server is running. It should show somewhere about Tomcat. Let's do more explicit. Okay, so PS AUX, sorry, PS, sorry, and let's just grab Tomcat. Okay, so it's perfect. Yeah. Okay, it's looking cumbersome on the screen, so grab and then let's less it. This seems better. So if you look at the last line, that's the last one at the Tomcat user. Yeah, the one with the Tomcat user. Okay, let's clear screen. It's looking some way. And let's do it again. So and we'll less it. So yeah. So it actually the last line, Tomcat, the PID, and it goes ahead to tell you the program is running as a background service. So this is the last line that we're looking, because that's the user that we're looking at. So that's perfect. Well, okay, so yeah, I was just trying. The basic one doesn't really give you much information. Yep, so we have to go a little bit deeper with this. Later on we'll explain some of these commands. Yeah, but if we do a man of PS, a man on PS is a process. You can actually find more about how to view a process, like what other flags you need to pass to it. So just for more information. Yep. So just that. So we've seen that it's working, and we are okay with that. So we're going to go ahead and get our application ready and move it to this server, because our service is up. So we have some good news. We've made some steady progress. So our server has been successfully provisioned, and our Tomcat service is active and it's running and it's showing active. So we are good to go. So stay tuned and let's get our application ready to move to the server now. So we are still in the VM mode, still trying to understand VMs and its effect on us as developers or in enterprise infrastructure. Alright, so that'll be it for this cool film. I'll see you in the next. Bye.